1170theanswer.com.
Welcome back. You are listening to Whissel Wednesdays here on AM 1170 The Answer. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with Whissel Realty. Joined as always by Mr. Jason Hall, Team Home Loans.
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Blair Ballin, Blair Group, Phoenix, Arizona in the house.
Yes.
What questions do you have for Mr. Red Griswold, partition referee? We were talking about hoarder houses before the break.
Yeah.
Do you guys have those out in Phoenix?
Absolutely. And it brings me back to the days of when I was selling REO and we ran into things that were, I'm not going to say similar because the stuff that you were mentioning was nowhere near what we saw, but that's just crazy. And I'm in my head mulling over, we were talking about the disease that these people might have and figuring out the bigger picture other than just potentially selling the home or whatever and what caused them to have it and you seeing this stuff and the impact that has on you personally and how even you got into this, because that's just amazing. I mean, all of it's incredible.
Definitely. So, Red, when you get a house, whether a hoarder house, drug house, whatever the case is, what's the process look like?
Sure. So, at the outset, I'm given an order signed by the judge, and it pretty much lays out a very broad scope of what my duties are. But in a nutshell, it's take full legal control and possession of that property, clean up and remedy all of those violations at that property, and then present to the court an exit plan. And so, initially, it is going to that property. Now, I will say, and thankfully, typically all my orders give me permission to invite uniformed police officers to come along with me for that initial door knock. And you just really never know what you're going to find. But with those police officers, I certainly feel a lot more safe and willing to do so. But at the outset, it's showing up there with city building inspectors, code enforcement folks, as well as my own contractor, because it's my job to put together a bid and move forward with cleaning up that property, whatever it may be. So, right, in the case of a hoarder, I may have an interim vendor who's just a biohazard, clean out company. Then phase 2 might be coming through with your more general contractor to fix all the electrical and the plumbing issues and the holes in the roofs and whatever else is going on. But it's me assembling a team. Now, the biggest aspect that makes this all possible is legally in California, in these types of receiverships, I'm able to borrow money, private money, against the subject property, the problem property, and utilize that money to pay for everything for the receivership to solve that problem. And then come really the human issues. When I say exit plan, that's a long discussion of speaking with the owner who has every right. They still have legal title. They own the property. It's theirs. But at the end of the receivership, that receivership lien, that money I borrowed against the property, it's got to be paid off. So sometimes
people owner, actually pay back loans?
There you go. Yeah. I should introduce you to some.
Yeah. I was like, my ears popped up when you said that because I'm like, loans. But then, of course, private money is... That's a unique thing, but I guess that's the way to make it happen, because if an appraiser came in there, we've had many appraisers come on the studio that Kyle and I both know, they literally, that would be called out on the appraisal. Then any lender, based on an underwriter review, and it wouldn't, sees issues, wouldn't allow us to do a normal loan. So that's why you're saying that's why it has to be private money, right, Red?
Absolutely, yeah, because, and another part of it too, as the receiver, the court allows me to, in a sense, be the borrower. And so, because the owner of the property is not going to qualify for any sort of traditional or conventional loan. And so really it's hard money lenders that are looking at the project as a whole.
Equity position.
Correct.
Just in case there was any problems, they could take over the house, get paid off, pay off their first, assuming they're in second position, possibly even in third sometimes, right?
Well, and that brings up probably the most powerful aspect of this is that a court has the discretion to order super priority for this receivership lien to jump in front of all existing liens except for property taxes. That's what makes these tick.
Tax always get first, right? Isn't that funny? The tax man always is first.
Yeah. Government first, then private party.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever have issues with condos?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I know some HOA boards act right away.
Right.
And when we saw the downturn here in San Diego, some HOA boards immediately, if you stop paying your HOA because somebody advised you to, right, which was like the worst thing you could ever do to a condo association, they would kick you out like 2 or 3 months because they're in first priority. That's why lenders are very, cautious with condo financing, because they literally come it's the tax man and them, right? They go 1 and 1A, but some HOA boards kept waiting and pushing it off, and nobody wanted to be the bad guy. And lo and behold, then the rest of us paying our HOA are subsidizing those who didn't want to.
Sure.
Right? But go ahead, condos.
Yeah. So I deal with, I'll tell a story about a condo. So obviously condo, lots of issues with condos, shared walls, who's got responsibility for what's above the ceiling, below the floors, and the walls with plumbing. So I was dealing with a property in South Pasadena. Owner was an extreme hoarder. No one complained about it much until that owner was out of town for several months. Middle of the night, wall floods some plumbing lines into the neighboring property. So
they had to break in.
They had to break in. Could not open the door.
Oh, my goodness.
Had to rip the door off. Fire department gets in, and you've got vaulted ceilings about 12 feet high, and
completely
you've got
full
stuff all the way to the top. So from a perspective of who's going to get the ball rolling, who's going to be that loud person.
Because that's a fire hazard. That's
Absolutely.
A flood hazard. That's everything. And when, like you said, you have joining walls, joining floors, joining ceilings, that's a liability to everybody in that community.
Absolutely. And it becomes a much more urgent issue when you're sharing a wall, as opposed to having at least a little bit of breathing room of 10, 12 feet in a neighboring, single-family detached home.
I love it. Again, you're listening to Whissel Wednesdays here on AM 1170, The Answer. One of the things, Blair, I don't know if you found this interesting, but he gets to go with cops to the house. Back in the REO or bank-owned foreclosure days, we didn't get that luxury.
We did. It was just us.
Yeah, when we used to do all the bank-owned properties, they would, sign a property to us.
You guys carried something, right? You guys carry a bat?
Well, in Arizona, you could carry out there.
Yeah, you probably can pack in Arizona, right?
You can carry.
I had my cell phone, but nothing else.
Well, you guys are pretty big guys, Kyle.
Yeah, especially Blair. I mean, Blair. The guns on that guy?
He does, he's a tall guy. But were you guys worried? Because I know Kyle's told me stories where there was hoarders living.
Squatters.
Yeah. Better described as squatters.
All the time.
And you guys, because people want a place to live, and this thing's been empty for months, and so they would crawl in there just like a rodent would or an insect and utilize that space. And then apparently once they get a address and they get a gas and electric bill mailed there or something, some of these people literally would open up gas and electric. Literally get that done, right, Kyle?
Right.
And then they have legal rights, although they're legally there. They don't pay anybody, but they are paying gas and electric. So now somehow they have, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so how'd you guys do with that in Arizona?
Avoiding the police is the easiest way to get people out. And sometimes it just takes some good old American muscle to get somebody out of these houses, because if you go through the authorities, all the rights are in the tenant's favor. But sometimes you're actually better off. It's not even a
tenant. That's what's crazy to me.
They are a tenant. By law, they're a tenant. By law,
they're a tenant. But when I think of tenant, I think of somebody who signed a rental agreement and gave me a deposit.
Well, that's
because
where you're
I don't
wrong,
put any
Jason.
Tenants. I know.
This is California. Once they assume occupancy of that
Thank
property,
you, Governor Brown.
And they establish themselves as an occupant.
Isn't our minimum wage like $90,000 a year now?
It went up 50 cents this week.
It's crazy.
But we would go.
What do you guys? You guys laugh at us over there in Arizona. You guys laugh at us here in California. You love our weather. You love our beaches. You love our hotels. You love our restaurants. I know you don't love our Chargers like I do.
I'm actually originally from Santa Monica, so
okay. So
I've got some California in me, but my family loves San Diego.
So you guys laugh at us, but the question Kyle just put out is, what's minimum wage there right now in Arizona?
I have no idea.
Really?
$9? I don't know.
I don't know what it is either.
We just went up from 10 to 10.50.
It's 10.50 now?
I don't know if we want to go on this, Jason, because you're going to go down a deep
I got to get my wife
hole.
a raise. My wife's on my branch office, and she's always at the bottom, right? So
this is being recorded. Your wife is working. She has a lot of responsibility.
She has a lot of responsibility, but as the business owner, this way no one complains. I go, hey, look, you make more than the gal who sleeps with the boss. So, Kyle's laughing. Rabbit hole. Another rabbit hole. I can go through some more stuff on that.
Deep rabbit hole. But if you want to go down a rabbit hole with Mr. Red Griswold Law, let's say you've got a situation where you've got a hoarder house around you, drug house, something along those lines. He can at least point you in the right direction if he can't help himself. Give us a call. Shoot us a text. 619-663-SELL, 619-663-7355. When we get back from the break, I want to find out what's going down in Phoenix, Blair. You're listening to Whissel Wednesdays on AM 1170, The Answer.